I'm Kyle Roed, and this is the Rebel HR Podcast. Welcome to the podcast. Rebel HR is a podcast for HR professionals who are ready to make some disruption in the world of work. Follow us online on Facebook at Rebel HR Podcast, rebelhumanresources.com, or follow me on Twitter at Rebel HR Guy. All right, listeners, I am really excited about today's conversation, as I'm sure is near and dear to many of your hearts. We're going to be talking about employee benefits. Today, our guest is a senior strategy advisor for Brio Benefit Consulting down in Wall Street / Neil's basement right now. We have Neil Ratsutsky. Did I say that right?
Oh,
Neil?
you got it.
Ratsutsky. All right,
I
perfect.
can't even criticize that.
All right, and he is helping the country's best HR professionals, CEOs, and CFOs use benefits to influence culture, lower costs long-term, create efficiencies, and make sure we don't get any lawyers knocking on our doors. Neil, welcome to the podcast.
I'm very, very, very glad to be here.
Really appreciate you spending some time with us, and I think as we look at the world of benefits, it can get convoluted, it can get confusing, and a lot of times in the world of HR, we're only dealing with the negative side of benefits when it goes wrong. Why don't we start by just having you tell us a little bit about your organization?
So, I'll tell you about myself and our organization. I have been in the very exciting world of employee benefits for just about 10 years now. And not to walk you through, the chronology of my story, but I actually think it's very relevant. I had spent almost 4 years on the pharmaceutical and prescription side of the industry. I got a very unique perspective as to, the back end mechanics of insurance, of the pharmaceutical industry, medicine, how it affects employees and patients, right? And I joined Brio 7 years ago after meeting the partners of the firm and just lining up philosophically with them, with my experience and them coming from the carrier side of, our philosophies just matched up in the sense of we had met with hundreds, thousands of employers at this point. And the story, unfortunately, for the benefits industry hasn't changed. We've met with thousands of employers, CEOs, CFOs, HR directors mainly over the years, and just kept hearing over and over again how tired they were of the reactive model of getting your renewal 30 to 60, 90 days if you're lucky, every year before your effective date, scrambling to make a decision. Is this the year we're making plan design changes? Are we shopping our insurance this year? Are we going to just number shift, right? Raise deductibles and copays. And then when making those decisions, how's it going to affect my employees? How's it going to affect my administrative workload from an HR side, right? Which is what we're all trying to ease. And how's it going to affect my company's, the firm's ability to attract and retain talent, to affect the bottom line, but without impacting culture in negative ways. So what we did was, over the years, and we've been tweaking it, we've been working with all of our clients and HR professionals across the country to develop just a really different way of approaching the benefits, a different model. And really our goal is to take that nationwide and help anyone and everyone that is willing to take a different look at the benefits to really create a vision and execute on that. That was a really long-winded answer, so I'm sorry, but there's a bit of passion in this because it's such a stodgy industry, and it blows my mind coming from where the space I came from. I came from large pharma. I also owned a small mom and pop pharmacy before joining Brio, so I have like an array of experience with insurance from all different angles. And when really getting into the employee benefits space, I can't believe that so many years later, nothing has changed. All other industries have taken leaps and bounds from a technology standpoint, from just every standpoint. And insurance and benefits have basically been the same because the carriers haven't wanted or have not allowed for change to occur, right? It's a lot of it is political, and not in any one direction, but it's a used car sale every year at renewal time for a lot of employers, and to me that's unacceptable.
I hate car shopping, so I'm glad you used that analogy because insurance shopping is the same.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I feel the same way, and that's why we've tried to go about it differently. We don't want to shop our clients' insurance. Like for us, that's I think that's basic blocking and tackling. Anyone can do that, but to create a vision, to look at everything in a big picture and key performance indicators and communication and compliance, right? Keeping those lawyers from knocking at your door, that takes a lot more of consultative and consulting role. So we hate the word broker, so we try to stick to consultant as much as we can, just because of it's that negative connotation that comes around it.
So you brought up that it's political.
Mm-hmm.
It very much is. But yeah. With that, do you feel like employers can take a role in controlling some of these costs, or is it truly just all left up to politics?
I know for a fact that employers can take control of these costs. We've had a lot of success stories with a lot of groups that we've worked with, but what I really refer to in the politics is the things that go on at the highest level, right? At the carrier level, with the dumping off high renewals onto employers no matter what goes on, right? Profits continue to rise. And, being in the world of fully insured, which most groups are, which is the least efficient way of having insurance now, is being fully insured guaranteed cost. Being in that world, you're kind of left every year hoping that you don't get slammed with a 30% renewal. And, they work you down to a 10 or 12, which is like trend basically over the last couple of years. And most employers are happy with that now, right? The insurance carriers have taught employers that getting a 10 to 15% increase every year is actually winning, right? And even if you were to truly run at a better loss ratio, and you should be getting decreases in a lot of cases, you're going to be happy getting only an 8% increase, right? And they're going to tell you like it's your birthday, you only got a 8 or a 10 this year. So the way that employers have driven down costs is by taking control of the plan, by going eventually to self-funding and carving out and owning your own contracts, right? Because the big spend in recent years, and it's starting to hit the national spotlight, and the president has even spoken on it recently, is specialty medication and pharmacy, right? So RX and specialty RX in particular are huge cost drivers in American healthcare. And if you could take control of that, and there's different ways where you can carve out and direct contract with the pharmacy benefit manager, with the PBMs, that is the biggest way that employers are driving down costs long term, instead of just eating these double-digit increases year over year over year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're absolutely right.
It's absolutely absurd. It's not right. It's downright criminal. Honestly.
My background, I came from a larger employer that was self-insured, and then I made the switch to a smaller employer, and we are fully insured. And every renewal, I feel like I have zero control over it. And you're right. If we get an increase, but it's below, the benchmark, we're happy.
Mm-hmm. And you've been conditioned to think that, and that sucks, right? Like, I can't use it, but like without like letting my Brooklyn 4-letter words fly here, that sucks. Mm-hmm. That sucks, and that's unacceptable. And they've conditioned employers to take it.
So Neil, this is
Absolutely.
Patrick. I have a question for you, and the timing on this is perfect because my renewal
Yeah.
meeting is Thursday with our team
Okay.
and with our brokerage team. Since 2007, we have almost 300 employees. We're self-insured.
Mm-hmm.
We have probably been averaging around, I'm looking at it, roughly $300 per member per month
Mm-hmm.
for claims.
Okay.
And this year we're averaging right now $197 per member per month. Yet we're still expecting an increase. Now, since we're self-funded, we're fortunate, and our increases are anywhere between maybe 3 and 7%, which is great.
Exactly.
Versus fully insured. But what advice can you give me to argue to our brokerage company and saying we are $197 per member per month? How can we accept our carrier giving us a 6% increase? How do I challenge that?
You know, the big advantage of being self-funded is that it's really exactly what you just said, that when you have those bad years, when you're fully insured, you're paying a renewal or a compounding renewal, really, right? Because every year you're paying on top of what you paid previously on 100% of your cost. When you're self-funded, you're only getting the increase on that stop loss piece, which is maybe 20% of your cost, right? When you remove the fees, everything, I'd say 15 to 20%. So how can you argue that? The advantage is that you can shop to a different stop loss carrier. And that's the beauty of being self-funded, is you can look outside, and if you are running better and for whatever reason the carrier doesn't want to give you a decrease or a rate pass, you can look elsewhere, and if your stop loss ratios are as good as they are, you can keep your same network and just go to a different stop loss carrier.
That's a good approach. I like that.
You know, that's really the advantage, is once you carve out the stop loss and the RX eventually, and I don't know if you guys are carved in. It sounds like you're carved in, but if you explore carving it out, you can just move that piece year over year, and you fully control the back end mechanics, the levers that are working in the background, and you shouldn't be beholden to the carrier giving you rate increases when they're not deserved.
The disadvantage that I see there, to your point in the beginning when you were talking about how we're always waiting until the end of the year, 30, 60 days out for renewal. It's now, let's say we go down this road, and then it delays our renewal because they're shopping other stuff around while dealing with their other clients' renewals. And then at the end of the day, you got myself and my team and Kyle and Molly, who it's like finally we'll get our rates in December, and we have weeks to do our renewal and open enrollment, and it's always just a scramble at the end of the year for all of us.
It doesn't. I get it. It shouldn't be that way, right? Especially with you being self-funded, you should have enough numbers. And I don't know who you're working with or what they're doing, right? And everyone is different, but we believe in weekly and monthly reporting, projecting it out, and our self-funded clients our January 1 renewals are wrapped up in August. And if we have to shop it, we know here's who we're shopping it to. And if it lands in this range, or this range, we're going with A, B, or C, right? So you're already so far along the process that you should be simplifying it even further over time. And that's what employers really should be doing. That's the direction we've been trying to get employers to go, is fully insured has become so expensive, and not to stick to cost only, right? Because benefits is so much more than just the insurance cost, but it's become so expensive that taking a shot on self-funding makes all the sense in the world now. Before, they used to say you have to be 500 at least employees. We have groups down to 50 employees self-funding at this point, because fully insured is really that expensive anyway, right? So as long as you understand the cash flow, the risk factors involved, it can make a lot of sense for a lot of groups. There's level funding, which Molly, I don't know if you're self-funded, fully insured, level funded, but level funding is that perfect bridge product where you can get skin in the game. It starts changing the way you think. You start getting surplus, and then you decide, do I want to take the full dive into progressing this forward? But fully insured just rarely makes any sense. For groups of anything over 100 employees, especially.
Yeah. So, Patrick, I think, great call out on, costs are down, but renewals are up. Some numbers, if anybody hasn't been following the news, I'm just going to call it out. So United Health Group, profit doubles to 6.6 billion in second quarter, doubled to 6.6 billion. So if anybody's under United Healthcare, I think the question is, okay, where's that money going? Because you're just going to charge me more and take the profit, right? But that's the challenge. That's the challenge in the world of HR is, that information is power, but we're also beholden to our consultant or broker, whichever term you'd like to use, to help illustrate that to us, because the environment's just too complex for us to know all of the levers that we need to be aware of and that we need to pull. You have to have an expert steering the ship.
This year we're in a tough year as well with COVID. You have the Uniteds and the Wellmarks of the world waiving cost share with all the COVID testing and diagnosis and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, the Wellmarks and Uniteds need to pass that cost on to somebody come 2021, and that's where we're going to feel it.
I totally agree with you, and I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of people in recent months, especially being that there's no more commuting. I'm able to speak to a lot more HR folks over Zoom in the comfort of my home here. And this is speculating, but the conversations I've been having a lot of is, if you are about to get your renewal and United, Blue Cross, Cigna, they come to you and they're going to give you an increase, right? Spending has been down in recent months because people aren't going to the doctor. Okay. They have been halted from having elective surgery and elective procedures. Spending has been way down from a healthcare standpoint, aside from the COVID testing. So in theory, all those high priced procedures aren't being paid for. So there should be a lot more money. You shouldn't be getting high, renewals or high increases, period. But imagine if they're going to hit you right now with a big renewal, what next year? And I'm telling groups, you have to plan for what the possibility is next year for the fully insured groups, those level funded groups. You have to think about that, because once we're in two different parts of the country. Once all these restrictions are lifted and people start going back and having their elective surgeries, their elective procedures, their plastic surgeries, and everything they've been putting off for 5-6 months, that's all going to pile on. And who's going to pay for that, right? Now you're actually going to have to pay for it as an employer. And the day of reckoning is going to come in 2021. You have to be ready for that.
The other comment here that I would make is employer bears the brunt of the cost. Guess who else has to bear that cost? All your members, right? Your employees are going to pay more in premiums because your employer can't offset all of that premium inflation. So you're going to have more out of your paycheck. So from an employee standpoint, it's to your benefit to be in an insurance plan that is a little bit disruptive and pushes the boundaries, or you can expect to continue to see prices go up and up and up at 10% a year. You're going to double prices in 10 years, right? I mean, that's just where it's going. So I think that's a great point. Well made. So as you look at how Brio helps employers look at all of these challenges, where do you start in your analysis and assessment, and how do you really start to help somebody in an HR role where this is maybe 10 to 15% of their job try to navigate this?
So awesome question, and I'm actually going to walk you through what our process looks like. It's funny that you mentioned that it's 10 to 15% of the job, right? Employee benefits are typically the second or third largest budget item after payroll for a company. However, and I had trouble wrapping my head around this when I first got into the industry all those years ago, with it being such a high ticket item, I couldn't wrap my head around that HR folks don't just do benefits all day long, right? But over the years, many conversations, some disrupt HR meetings and networking events I've been to, I learned that a true HR professional wears many different hats throughout the day, and you're handling everything from being a benefits specialist to a mental health therapist to an employment attorney to taking out the trash if need be a lot of the times. And so how do we make it easier, right? So the approach that Brio takes and our process is really based around 2 steps. And we literally do this with every single prospective client, and we do it every 2 years with clients. It's a 2-step process. We call it discovery and blueprint. So like I mentioned before, we come from the space of the benefits model is broken. It's reactive. So this model really is built to break away from that. And we have 2 meetings with HR and finance. HR and finance have to always be in the room together, in our opinion, when discussing benefits. It does not work otherwise because finance always has their view on the benefits. Usually it's because it's such a high ticket item, high budget item. And HR, which represents the people, usually in a workplace, has their view. So we believe they have to be in the room together for this to work. And it's 2 meetings, discovery and blueprint. And that first meeting, discovery, we literally sit in a room. Now we sit on a Zoom, and we ask a ton of questions. It's usually about a 60, 90-minute session. And we ask everything to learn about what you've done in the past, what you have going on today, but most importantly, and I think this is more critical than ever, where do you see yourself as a company, and where do you want to be in 6 months, 1 year, and 3 years, all right? And that's really hard to think about in today's time, because look where we were 6 months ago. Life was great. So when I say 6 months now, like it makes me nauseous to think of what could be 6 months from today. But everything you've done in the past, today, and what you have going on, right? And we help groups create a vision together based on, and how we walk them through how they're going to attain that based on what the best performing groups in the country and what our clients are doing, what we call our key performance indicators, right? So we have 8 KPIs that we walk a potential client through. Cost containment is obviously a critical one, which we've just been discussing. Communication, because to me, honestly, right after cost, the way you communicate the benefits directly impacts the way that your employees view you as an employer and the way the market views you as an employer, right? Which leads us to value perception. We talk a lot about HR technology, which has become very front and center for HR professionals in recent years. And if I were to tell you that we would be in the HR tech space, 6, 7 years ago, I'd never believe it, right? But over and over, people are coming to us. We actually hired a director of HR technology just for this specific role to help HR professionals with vendor selection of all different kinds. We go through compliance and everything you need to know, right? And what the ideal situation would be, auditing information for accuracy, and lifestyle and wellness, right? Perks. What the new workforce looks like is their medical, dental, vision, the standard benefits are expected, right? With millennials, Gen Z now entering the workforce in full, you have to offer more than just the standard medical, dental, vision and a 401k. They're worried. They're asking questions about, what does your fertility plan look like? Do you have student loan benefits, right? What is the total rewards? And that's how you have to view benefits. So we go through all those KPIs. We ask a ton of questions. We create a vision, and we come back typically about 2 weeks later, and we give every prospective client or client a blueprint. And that literally, it looks like a blueprint. It's kind of cheesy, but it gets its point across. It's literally a business plan for the benefits that says, here's what your goal is. Here's what your vision is as a group. Here's what the best performing groups in your space and in the country are doing. and here's a business plan to help you get there. That's our whole value proposition, is always and will always be to spend the time to put in the work, ask the questions, and then show you how to attain that. We do all of that free of charge. Aside from our time, our hopes are always that we get hired afterwards. We know that's not always the case, of course. We're very different philosophically than a lot of groups are. And we are really comfortable with that. We know who our clients are, and our clients know what they want to be working with. So, as time progresses, as the younger generation moves into more senior roles, we think that this is where the market is going, is you have to always be looking at it as total rewards and a total compensation package. And everyone has to be on board with it from the C-suite down. Long-winded answer, sorry.
No, that's great. I think one of the things that is really interesting to me about the benefits world is the fact that there are some innovators coming out into the marketplace, doing some things a little bit differently, essentially saying the system is broken, let's help fix it. So tell me a little bit about what some of those trends are that you're seeing around innovative approaches, maybe some companies disrupting the marketplace, or some things that we should keep our eyes on in the world of HR.
Great question. So, front and center really has been with the pandemic, right? I'm going to talk about just today. We've been on the telehealth, telemedicine wave for years. We've been working with Teladoc and most of, MD Live and the 1RXs, you name it, for a number of years. I think that you have to be offering a telemedicine choice of some kind for your employees. We always recommend going outside of the carrier. So what the carriers are very smart, and Patrick would probably appreciate this. The carriers are so smart that they said they saw where the trends were going, because they couldn't charge for these claims anymore because people were going to outside physicians. So they all bought up some kind of telemedicine company, and they're offering telemedicine to any members that are on the plan. We think that spending the couple dollars per employee per month extra and offering it at a no copay level is the way to go for all employers, because it'll save you in the long run in costs from employers not going to urgent care, employees not going to the ER, because I use it all the time at home. I don't know if you guys have it or if you use it, but it, especially if you're self-funded, you have to have telemedicine at no cost to your employees. All right. The other big ones, mental health. We partnered with eMindful. They're a mindfulness service and app early in the pandemic. We offered not just to our clients, we offered to any HR professional that wanted it for their groups. We have a couple of employers with a couple thousand employees using it for free for 60 days, and I believe they extended it after that, completely free, so that they can offer some kind of mental health mindfulness solution for their employees as they were going through this transition to working from home for an extended period of time. And the other big ones, Common Bond is a great partner of ours for student debt. Student debt is, after healthcare and after this election, when the conversations start to change about, again, thinking long term, student debt is going to go right back to the forefront of what do we do with the student debt problem in this country. Common Bond is a great service that a lot of our clients have been using. ClassPass is going to be big now, again, with everyone working out at home and stuff like that. So they're coming out every day, right? There's a lot of great products out there, and we spend a lot of time just sifting through the weeds. We at Brio, and this is sometimes fun, sometimes not, we test everything internally. So before we offer it to any of our clients. We use it and we try to poke holes in, like, is this a realistic service? Are people going to like this? Is it too expensive? Like, what's the deal? So those are my biggest ones. Telemedicine, teledoc specifically, mental health, something like a Talkspace or an eMindful are great ones. And, ClassPass and Common Bond for student debt, right? These are really the perks that I think are going a long way.
Couldn't agree more, especially with the mental health. We're seeing that a lot in the HR world, so I'm definitely going to have to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
In the self-insured world, because I've been out for a while, is the high deductible health plans, is that still on a trend? Because in my fully insured world, our high deductible health plans that we are finding are significantly more costly than our plans that are not high deductible, than our traditional plans.
Yeah, some of the carriers have made their adjustments over the years. The benchmarking trend. So we're part of UBA, United Benefit Advisors. So we're collectively the fifth largest consulting group in the country, but we're an independent boutique firm. As part of that partnership, we have access to the country's largest benchmarking survey as part of UBA. So every year we go over with our clients, and the high deductible health plans and HRAs, health reimbursement agents, have been picking up a lot of traction over the years. The carriers are starting to make adjustments, and they're starting to ding for those plans, the HRAs, because I guess they're not making enough money. But to answer your question, it all depends on what state you're in, the size of your group, and your utilization, right? There's an analysis that goes into it. But with being self-funded, I think, for the self-funded group specifically, the real play, long-term savings is in carving out pharmaceutical benefits, RX benefits, getting those rebates. There is so much fat built into these RX contracts that a lot of employers just don't know about. We work very heavily in the LGBT nonprofit space on both coasts specifically, and we're rolling out a specialty pharmacy product with a large client of ours, which I can't talk about freely yet until it's out, but it's going to be very big for the community. But we took on a client, and they had a huge spend, right? And pharmacy spend, typically 30%, let's say, of your overall cost. For them, it was 50. And so when taking a look at it, there's a lot of HIV medication on there. Truvada is about $1,700 a month is what the insurance carrier, what Aetna will charge you, $17 a month every time the script for Truvada is filled. What they're not telling you is that drug manufacturer is actually cutting Aetna back a check in the ballpark of $1,200 every time that $1,700 script gets filled. Aetna is getting a check back for $1,200. The next year they're gonna tell you that it's not $1,700 anymore. We have to add trend on it. There's the price increase, right? Now imagine you have 50, 60 of those a month on this is just one medication I'm talking about. So what we're doing is, for groups that are eligible, and there's always a lot of money in specialty meds, they went self-funded, carved out their pharmacy, saved over almost $1 million in the first year just in getting rebates. And they're only a 300 or so life group. Let that dollar amount sink into how much money the pharmaceutical companies and the carriers are making on specialty drugs. All right. And as an employer, you can put yourself in position to receive that. The problem is, like Patrick said, Kyle, you don't know what you don't know. And unfortunately, HR has so many things on their plate, so many different hats you're wearing. It just falls through, and then it's a scramble. Like, we just need to get through this next renewal. We need to get through this next renewal, right? And you're in a hamster wheel for half your career doing that. That's the biggest cost saver. High deductible health plans they're great. HRAs are great. There's an education that's involved with teaching employees I think education and communication is the most critical part of offering a benefits plan. I'll say that over and over again. But, at the end of the day, you have to control long-term costs by actually owning the plans themselves.
I am a huge proponent of employee or just individual education on healthcare costs and the reason, and I think that can make a huge impact.
The biggest investment we've made over the years at Brio is into communication strategies, right? So there's 5 generations working under one roof for the first time in history. Everyone gets information differently. Everyone learns differently. Like look at the 4 of us. We're probably 4 very different types of learners, right? So how can you expect to roll out a benefits plan, something that's actually so critical to so many employees and their families and their children, but they actually don't know how the money is being spent, why their increases are happening, how they're affected by what goes on in legislation and things like that, and without giving them proper education on how to use the plans, right? So we've made big investments in some things our clients are doing. We're doing videos, open enrollment videos, webinars, live meetings. I'm talking about a typical open enrollment should have all of these things. A benefits website that they can access year round, benefits educational videos on a monthly schedule throughout the year, just constantly just trickling stuff. And we're doing all of this by email and by text message, because what we've also realized is no one's reading emails anymore, right? We get so many emails a day, and especially think about now, right, that we're all home and you can't even walk over to your coworker and have that conversation in a lot of cases. For a lot of employers and employees, how are we going to talk? Everyone has their phone though. Everyone has a smartphone. Everyone's checking it. So we're sending videos and education via text message now more than ever. That's what a lot of our clients are doing.
I agree with that 100%. You can never over-educate too much, because the carriers, the industry just makes it so complicated for our employees, and they just
oh my goodness
throw their hands up and they come to all of us and just say, just tell me what I need to do, tell me what I need to know. And to go back to one of the original things, Neil, that you pointed out was having it tie into your culture. Benefits just shouldn't be a transaction and part of something you have because you're an employer. It needs to be something more than that. Total rewards, tie into your culture. But it is that education piece that it's so complicated, and it's the hardest trying to get across.
Yeah, and we've been using services like Alex by Jellyvision, which is a decision-making software. We've been using it for years with clients, and why we like things like that is because the best way we describe it is your employee can get their education right on the spot without insurance talk. They can get a recommendation and the numbers without being smashed over the head with insurance mumbo jumbo and acronyms. And I'm telling you, as someone that's in the game, there is nothing worse than insurance talk.
I agree.
I sit on these meetings, I hear an acronym, and I can't tell you. I have to stop meetings all the time and say, oh God, hold on, what is that? What does that even mean? HDHP with an HRA, and I'm just lost.
I mean, who in their right mind is going to sit down and read a 90-page coverage manual? Come on, none of us are.
No one cares. Let's be honest. No one cares.
You guys don't read that before you click accept on the Apple's iTunes thing?
I used to.
But you know what's sad? HR puts all this work, and people put all this work into this benefits booklet, and it's trash, right? For the most part, no one's going to read it. When you have an open enrollment meeting, what is anyone hearing? They're thinking of, did my network change? Can I still go to my doctor? And am I paying more or less? Right? It's never less. Let's keep it real also. And how much more am I paying? Or am I paying more, or how much? So you need to package your communications in a way that speaks to the employee while still doing that HR thing of CYA, right? And somebody, I hate that HR, but you have to check the box also, but it has to be engaging. So using tools like an Alex, like videos, which can hold your 40-second to 1 minute video can hold your attention for what you need to know. Being more engaging in those ways instead of just giving a paper benefits book every year is going to not only drive the value perception up and the engagement, but it's actually going to make the understanding better from the employee standpoint, and they will then impact the entire plan for all of your employees in a better way by not taking that extra trip to the emergency room just because they needed like their asthma inhaler refill in the middle of the night, and we've all heard these like stories of like crazy urgent care and emergency room trips for like no for it really could have waited till the morning or could have been done on teledoc. But that they don't realize that actually hurts everyone in the long run that's next to you, because you're raising the plan for everybody when you're doing stuff like that.
Neil, I'm just glad that you admitted that you don't know what all the acronyms mean all the time, because I'm glad I'm not the only one sitting in there going like, pull out my phone, okay, Google, what's PEPM versus PMPM? I can't remember what it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot, and everyone uses different ones too. Like there's not like it's regional. It's uniform by your region, but everyone uses their own acronyms, and man, it's where we are.
If we feel that way, I mean, I think about this every time I roll out a benefits plan. I think about how our employees feel when they hear this stuff once a year, and then they go to their doctor and they get a bill and they don't understand it, and it's no fault of theirs.
No.
But I've always tried to put myself in their shoes. Like, how can I make this easier for them? How can I help them? How can I help them become a better consumer?
Yeah.
And you have to be consistent, right? You have to be persistent and patient and just keep on. You can't tell them once and think it's done.
Right. And you have to drip it constantly. But I think part of it is also where they're getting their information from, right? A lot of HR people are just ill-informed as well, unfortunately, and they don't know a lot about it, nor should they be complete experts on it, right? It's just one piece of what you do. So what we've done at Brio, because I can't tell you how many times we've heard this, we give all of our clients, and I think this is a really good just way to do things in general. Everyone has an employee advocate assigned to their account. So all of our clients have a specific 1 or 2 people that they can reach out to with any kind of issue that they have. So they got a bill, they got an explanation of benefits, they don't know how to read this. What is this? Do I pay this? Do I not? Instead of coming to HR knocking on your door, taking you away from what you were doing, your new DNI initiative that you're working on, or anything else is going on, right? Your COVID testing that you're doing internally, you have to stop and think about, does this person have to pay towards the deductible or not? And then you have to sit and you have to call Aetna, and then you're calling the pharmacy for them because they're scared. Instead of doing all that, they can call their Brio employee advocate, because the only thing worse than coming to HR and asking is calling the carrier and trying to get a straight answer from them, right? Or if you're, with something like an ADP or something, calling the payroll company and trying to get a consistent answer. If you call 2 different times or 3 different times, how many different answers you're going to get. So we have a Brio employee advocate that all of our clients get, that their employees can call to try to remove that layer of unknown, of misinformation, and let me do it for you, or no, you don't have to pay it, right? They can get a simple answer instead of jumping through hoops and then just giving up and then being like, our plan sucks. Because then you have the other part of HR of they had a bad experience because they got lazy and gave up, and then they're sitting in the cafeteria with everyone saying, guys, our plan sucks here. Meanwhile, it's like you're benchmarking above everyone else. The competition doesn't offer half of this, but they had a bad. Oh man, these plans suck. It sucks here, and it's communication is the only way, in my opinion, that you get away from that.
I want to ask about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Regarding benefits, design, strategy, communication, what can we do better?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is big now, and we're doing it internally at Brio, and it's very, it's all you're seeing on TV when you're not talking about COVID, right? And what can we do better from a benefit standpoint? It comes down to, employers are in a tough position, and I want to be thoughtful of the audience, because different size employers have different needs and different resources, right? Not everyone is a Verizon or a Home Depot, right? We're talking a lot more, 300, 100, 500 person companies, right? Where they might have been squeezed with what's going on in the last couple of months, and a lot of groups are just in survival mode right now, and resources are at a premium. So what you can do, what a lot of our clients have done, is if you are able to take control of your costs, and I'm going to go back to this LGBT group, because I think it's another great example of diversity and inclusion. When they had that savings that I had mentioned, that large, almost $1 million savings in the first year, instead of just pocketing that and putting it into the coffers, what they did was they said, we're going to give back to our employees. We're going to set aside a little chunk here for in case of a bad year, because when you're self-funded, you have to allot for 1 in 6 or 7 years might be, a painful one. We're going to put a little aside here. Then we're going to take some money. We're going to roll out a 401k match. So we're going to give to our employees. And then we're going to take the rest, and we're going to try to offer the most progressive trans benefit across the country for a group our size. And that is what they did. And they looked at their population. And so this is very hard to answer in any specific way, but you have to look inside at your people, which, being in HR, that's really what you should be doing. And I hope everyone is doing that's listening to this. You have to look internally. You have to say, who are my people? What does my population find important? And you find the resources for that out of the benefits plan, and you put it into that. So for them, it was trans benefits, because Aetna was not going to pay for it. They weren't covering it. They become much more willing to over the years. We've done a lot of work with Aetna's chief medical officer on this, and how do they offer it to other plans. But that's what they want to put into. We have other groups that have a high female population, or that want to offer a better fertility benefit. If you're in a state that doesn't mandate a fertility benefit, they want to give a better fertility benefit, or offer up egg freezing. We work with a lot of companies in the fashion and retail space. So heavy female population, very career focused, right? And egg freezing has become very big amongst these companies, because these are females that want to focus on their career, but still want to keep a family life in mind in the future. So when you're talking about D&I, right, being inclusive truly means being inclusive. So include everyone in your population when you're making the decision, and think of, how can I affect the most people possible, or how can I make the biggest impact without necessarily hurting the bottom line of our company, right? We work with Rethink Autism for a number of years. They're an amazing service, but how many of your employees deal with autism or have children on the spectrum, right? Statistically, less than 5%, 3% or so is probably the number. But by offering a benefit like this, it's relatively low cost. You can change the lives of this handful of employees. And instead of having those couple of employees that had, a bad experience calling, Aetna or Blue Cross or whoever, and giving up and saying our plan sucks, they're coming to work and saying, oh my God, I can't believe what our employer is doing for my family. I'm living it every day. We have these mental health benefits that I never had access to. You know, I was able to get a prescription at 11 p.m. because we rolled out an actual telemedicine, and I didn't have to pay a copay for it. And these are all like very, very inexpensive things and perks you can give, but that can change that can make such a huge impact internally, you know, which is what you're going for in HR.
This past year, I actually had an individual who was in the process of transitioning, and they came to me and asked what this meant for them and their benefit plan, and I didn't know. And that right there was a huge lesson for me. And when we talk about being proactive versus reactive, like these are questions that I didn't even think to ask in our benefit planning and our benefit strategy meetings. So for me, it's like I just need to be, when I go into these meetings, I need to open my mind a little bit. And okay, what questions, what information should I be asking that I haven't?
You know, and it's hard. We get caught up in our day-to-day, but you just have to look at the world around you sometimes and really think of, if this is impacting others, there is a 100% chance it's impacting someone in your building, right? And so how do I help those people on a day-to-day basis in doing what I'm doing? That's my philosophy. Again, there's no right or wrong here, but you're going to see a lot more of that situation, and there's a lot of learning that a lot of employers have to do when it comes to that, and how to deal, and what it actually looks like for your organization.
Powerful stuff. Really appreciate you sharing that and sharing your perspective, Neil. Keep on disrupting. There's a lot to do. So I'm sure that the conversation needs to continue, but we are closing in on time here. So how can our listeners get connected with you and with Brio Benefits?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Neil Ratsutsky, NeilRatsutsky. I'm always happy to connect. I've truly made an absolute effort I've been home since March 3rd. Since March 4th, I have been making an effort to help anyone and everyone I can across the country. I'm helping people, HR folks, and be transitioning between jobs, try to link you with other people to try to find you employment. I've answered a million questions about COVID. I've learned so much about FFCRA. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But feel free to reach out, message me. I'm open to talk, and you can find us at www.brio benefits.com is our website. I'm here to help. So really and truly.
Awesome. Great conversation, Neil. Thank you. Very insightful. And thank you to Molly and Patrick, our awesome co-hosts, for joining us today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. That does it for the Rebel HR podcast. Big thank you to our guests. Follow us on Facebook at Rebel HR Podcast, Twitter at Rebel HR Guy, or see our website at rebelhumanresources.com. The views and opinions expressed by Rebel HR Podcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any of the organizations that we represent. No animals were harmed during the recording of this podcast.
Baby.